I want to share my own near-death experience, but I wish to remain anonymous because my family distanced themselves from me when I decided to talk about it. I was called crazy, and even worse, my parents, with whom I no longer have contact, tried to force me to seek counseling with our church pastor. It's really challenging for a true believer in God to accept that He has the power to reveal things beyond this physical plane of existence. You can use my experience on your channel. However, I ask that you keep my anonymity, as people's reactions to hearing about a near-death experience often bring out the worst in them, and I don't want or need that negativity in my life. Before we continue with this narrative, please leave a like to help the channel grow, share this video with a friend, and subscribe for notifications on new content. Now, let's get to my experience. It happened in the early 1990s, when I was a college student living in the dorms and indulging in excessive partying. After a night of drinking with friends, I drifted away from the group. That night, I was more than just a little drunk. One moment, we were bar hopping down the university street, and the next, I started feeling an intense heat. I excused myself and went outside to get some fresh air. After regaining some composure, whatever that means, I went back to the bar, but I couldn't find anyone from my group. Later, I found out they thought I had left and moved on to the next bar. After wandering around the club for at least 20 minutes, I decided to return to the dorms. That's when things started to become confusing for me. I remember stopping along the way and resting on a bus stop bench, and then I chose to lie down for just a minute. I have no idea how long that 1 minute actually lasted because I passed out. When I woke up, or at least thought I had woken up, I found myself looking down, lying on the bench. It took me a moment to realize two things. First, I wasn't drunk anymore. Second, I was watching my own body resting on the bench. Although this should have been incredibly disturbing, it wasn't. In fact, I felt as if a newfound freedom, one that should have always existed, had come to me. I didn't care about that body, nor did I want to return to it. As I looked around, I realized I could see in a full 360-degree view and was able to perceive objects and people from a distance as if they were right beside me. Behind me, an elevated tunnel appeared, about 15 meters above the ground, and I knew I had to cross it, so I did. At first, I floated gently through the tunnel, but soon I began to pick up speed. I can't describe the emotion that surged within me as I plunged toward an unknown destination. Time seemed to cease to exist, and I don't know how far that tunnel took me, but I can say for sure that I left the Earth's atmosphere and traveled through space. After a while, time lost its meaning, so I can't pinpoint exactly how long had passed, but I began to see a light on the horizon. The light grew brighter as I approached it. I know many people talk about the love they feel upon reaching the light, and the same happened to me. Even if I had 1,000,000 years and 1,000,000 words, I couldn't describe that love in a way that someone who hadn't experienced it could understand. It was like being embraced by the entire universe in a huge hug that filled every part of my being while I was enveloped by an overwhelming sense of love. I saw a man walking towards me, dressed in a white tunic and wearing the most beautiful smile. When he reached me, I heard his words telepathically, as if the phrases were only inside my head. I could hear them, even though his mouth didn't move. "I have been waiting for you, my son," he said, in the same telepathic way. I asked, "You have?" He replied, "Yes, I have." And sensing my next question, "Jesus is the name by which I know you, although I am called by many names. You have been chosen to meet me here and now, for you are at a crucial moment in your life. Your future will be determined by the choices you will soon make." I asked, "What choices are those?" He answered, "You are at a crossroads. I will show you two possible futures, but in the end, the path you choose will remain within the limits of your free will. Jesus extended his hand and touched my forehead. So, I found myself in a doctor's office, just older, with the doctor saying that my liver was failing due to excessive drinking in my youth. Then, Jesus showed me my second future. In this one, I was roughly the same age as in the first future, but I was working as a social worker, guiding young people in vulnerable situations and making a difference in my community. I looked healthier. When Jesus withdrew his hand, I asked him, "Many people drink, so why was I chosen to see these possible outcomes? What makes me special?" Jesus replied, "Every puzzle has multiple pieces that need to fit together in a specific order before the final picture is revealed. This has always been the case since the beginning. Just look at the stars and realize all the pieces that had to come together for life to exist on Earth. If even one of them were out of place, the whole picture would change. I can't say why you are such an important piece, but I know you were chosen to be shown. Now, go back to Earth and become the piece you were meant to be." I turned to face the tunnel, but before I began my journey back to Earth, I had one last question to ask Jesus. Throughout my life, I heard it said that I had awakened. I found myself looking at my lifeless body on the bench. It took a moment to realize two things. First, I had left the intoxication behind, and second, I was observing my own body, something that, in theory, should be deeply alarming, but it wasn't. In fact, I felt no connection to the form I had left behind. On the contrary, a feeling of freedom, as if I had always been there, took over me. I wasn't worried about that body, nor did I have any desire to return to it. As I looked around effortlessly, I realized that my vision expanded to a 360-degree field. I could see objects and people in the distance as if they were very close. Behind me, a raised tunnel emerged, about 15 meters above the ground, and somehow there was a certainty within me that I needed to cross it. So I did. At first, I gently floated through the tunnel, but gradually I began to accelerate. I can't adequately describe the feeling that overwhelmed me as I launched into an unknown destination. The time seemed to dissolve. I don't know how far the tunnel took me, but I was definitely beyond Earth's atmosphere and traveling through space. After a while, the concept of time became irrelevant, so I cannot accurately say how long my journey lasted, but I began to see a light in the distance, growing brighter as I got closer. I know many people talk about the love they feel upon reaching that light, and the same happened to me. Even if I had eternity and a million words, I couldn't explain that love in a way that someone without that experience could understand. It felt as if the entire universe was enveloping me in an eternal embrace, filling every part of my being as I surrendered to the vastness of that love. Then I saw a man walking toward me, wearing a white robe and radiating a bright smile. As he approached, I heard his voice in my mind, even though his lips didn't move. "I have been waiting for you, my son," he said, communicating telepathically. I asked if he had something for me, and he replied, "Yes, I do, and you know me as Jesus, although I have many other names." He continued, "You have been chosen to meet me here and now because you have reached a crucial point in your life. Your future choices will determine your path." Curious, I asked what choices those were. He explained, "You are at a crossroads. I will show you two possible futures, but in the end, the path you choose will be part of your free will." Jesus reached out his hand and touched my forehead, and I found myself in a doctor's office, a little older, where the doctor told me that my liver was failing due to the alcohol I had consumed in my youth. Then Jesus showed me a second future, where I was approximately the same age as in the first, but I worked as a social worker, helping at-risk youth and positively impacting my community. I seemed healthier in that future. When Jesus removed his hand, I questioned, "Why do so many drink? What makes me special to see these outcomes?" He replied, "Every puzzle has many pieces that must come together in a specific order for the final image to appear. It has always been this way. Just look at the stars and notice how many pieces had to come together for life to exist on Earth. Even if just one piece were out of place, the entire picture would change. I can't say why you are such a significant piece, but I know you were chosen to be shown this." He then said, "Now, return to Earth and become the piece you were meant to be." Before facing the tunnel for my return, I had one last question for Jesus. Throughout my life, I had heard about him. I could only hear his words in my mind, even though his lips remained still. "I have been waiting for you, my son," he said telepathically. I asked if there was anything I needed to know, and he replied, "Yes, there is. And since you are about to ask, Jesus is the name you know me by, although I have many others. You have been selected to meet me here and now because you have reached a turning point in your existence. Your future will be shaped by the choices you are about to make." "What choices are those?" I asked. "You are at a crossroads. Let me show you two possible futures, but in the end, the path you choose will be determined by your free will." Jesus reached out and touched my forehead, allowing me to see a doctor's office. I was older, and the doctor was telling me that my liver was failing due to excessive drinking in my youth. Then, Jesus presented my second future, where I was about the same age as in the first, but I was working as a social worker, guiding at-risk youth, and contributing to my community. I seemed healthier. When Jesus withdrew his hand, I asked, "Many people drink. Why was I chosen to witness these possibilities? What makes me special?" Jesus replied, "Every puzzle consists of various pieces that must fit together in a specific order before the final image is revealed. This has always been the case since the beginning. Just look at the stars and see how many pieces had to come together for life to exist on Earth. If even one of them were out of place, the entire picture would change. I can't say why you are such a crucial piece, but I know you were chosen to see this. Now, return to Earth and become the piece you are destined to be." I turned to the tunnel, but before starting my return to Earth, I had one last question to ask Jesus. "Throughout my life, I've heard that you will return. Could you tell me when that will happen?" "Only my Father knows the answer." "My son," Jesus replied. My journey back through the tunnel reflected the one I had taken to reach the light. As I approached my body, which was still sitting on the bus stop bench, my descent slowed until I hovered directly above it. There was a part of my soul that hesitated to join the lifeless body. It wanted to return to the light. However, as I looked around, I realized that the tunnel had closed. Suddenly, a force began pulling me back into my body, and with a loud bang, I immediately awakened. It was cold, but I no longer felt intoxicated. I got up, went back to my room in the dorm, and slept, wondering if all of that had been a dream, or if I had really been somewhere else. In the following weeks, I found the courage to share my experience with my parents. Unfortunately, this turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. They thought I was crazy or on drugs, and even involved the church pastor, who told me that Satan was inside me because of such blasphemy. My life changed drastically. As I mentioned before, I began to distance myself from my parents and stop drinking. My grades improved as soon as I quit the parties, even if it meant losing many friends. It seemed like people only wanted to be around those who shared the same mindset. Eventually, I graduated and moved to a big city in the United States, where I currently work as a social worker, helping young people in risky situations, just like I saw in my vision. I still don't fully understand where or how I fit into the puzzle of life, but I have faith that I'm part of a glorious picture. Every day, I strive to make a positive impact in the lives of these kids. Maybe one of them is the reason I was chosen to glimpse my future. Only time will reveal the truth. That concludes today's experience. You know how it is. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and keep being blessed.